I was going to kick it off by asking if you saw Elon Musk telling Bob Iger to go fuck himself, but you already saw that.
I'm going to do a little like zoom of that. The vlog
What do you
posted.
I want to I want to roll it like this, but like.
So someone sent it to me this morning where they were like, yo, is this AI? Because it wasn't by CNBC. It was posted from a different Twitter account that just posts like viral clips, which I was already like, okay, that's like a interesting society comment of like, is this whatever. And then I instantly was like, oh, this seems quite real. And then it took me a second to understand the context. Most of the comments I saw were like, let's go Elon, screw everyone else. I guess it depends on where you see it. But I saw it on TikTok and I saw it on Twitter. And the people that shared it to me, other than I'm just going to be all front, our progressive friend Justin, who was like, but Elon's an idiot. Everyone else was like, let's go.
It was I thought it was an idiotic statement.
Oh.
A little, I mean.
Like idiotic as in he shouldn't have been perverse as a leader of like one of the leaders of the free world, or it brings down the immaturity, or you think his stance is actually invalid? The third, I would strongly disagree.
So I think, I don't want to go into like the why he said that and why advertisers were pulling out. I don't want to say that. But like, I don't know how much Disney and Bob Iger being the CEO of Disney, how much Disney spends on advertising on X. They probably have an advertising budget. But if you're running a business, you probably shouldn't tell your customers to fuck off.
But I think it's more of just like he is so confident in his commercial ability. I would take it a step further and say, in any type of market, especially let's say specifically for him, he's rich enough. He doesn't care. He just wants to win on Twitter.
Sure.
Social media is very competitive. There's a lot of different platforms fighting for different advertisement. I think like in terms of my expertise, I could somewhat speak on like creator economy and content marketing. But on top of that, I'm trying to say, I bet the number of platforms that want to only advertise on Twitter skyrocketed after that statement.
You
like
really
skyrocketed.
Companies that, okay, most of the advertising revenues come from 80-20, come from like the Fortune 500, Fortune 100, like Disney. I don't think those companies are like, yes, time to go fuck myself and I'm going to go advertise. They may not actually care. I would argue that they're more likely to be neutral. They're not, I don't think they're positive. I think they'd be neutral to negative. The big Fortune 100 companies.
I think the neutral is there. I think that Twitter's big enough, if not like the text-based platform where people will continue to advertise. I think it's a net positive in the sense that maybe you're underestimating and I'm probably overestimating the number of Fortune 500 companies that are fed up with the liberal progressive movements of like,
I could agree with that.
Like, for example, let's say 20 years ago or 10 years ago, Elon or a progressive version of Elon said on stage, let's say actually I can confirm 20 years ago when I first immigrated to this country, the climate was very like marriages between a man and woman and LGBTQ was like not a thing. Let's say 20 years ago, progressive equivalent of Elon went on stage and was like, for those people that say they're pulling out ads because we're pro LGBTQ, go F yourselves. I bet similar things could have happened where the far left of that era or like LGBTQ pro people would be like, I'm only advertising on Twitter now. And then the people that are like on the fence or whatever could have been neutral. I think the same exact stance is happening. There's plenty of people that are pulling out on that kind of stuff, realizing it's not worth the money. Disney themselves are pulling back on like over diversity casting, redoing the Snow White movie after much lashback. Marvel is pulling back because all their diversity stunts aren't working. I'm not saying Bob Iger is actually going to be like, now we're advertising on Disney after Elon told him to go F himself. But I think it's more of like, there's, to your point, the neutrals and then a net gain from people that like Elon's stance.
What do you think? So, without going into like the details, like my CEO loves to say business is the greatest platform for change, as in like, if businesses are, let's say there are social issues, let's not say like, and I don't think the comments with LGBTQ was actually about Israel Hamas, wasn't it? What?
No.
I thought it was Elon had a very hot take on Israel Hamas conflict, and then people put out it was because of.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about me. Like it was Elon's comment about.
It was
Hamas
about
and,
that. That was what
my assumption is that it's some level of.
That was what caused part of the multiple facets.
Correct.
One of the big things he did was tweet a very hot take around the war, and people pulled out.
That is correct.
Going to what I was going to ask, I love the idea of like business is the greatest platform for change. I think at least in the United States, businesses are some of the most powerful institutions we have. Definitely more powerful than, I would say, Jamie Dimon's more powerful than Biden in a way. The CEOs are more powerful than the president, depending on the company, or at least a couple of them. it's an interesting take. If
Sure.
they're definitely more functional businesses than government. We can
Sure.
agree on that.
Maybe Jamie Dimon not specifically, but I understand what you're saying. Yes.
So let's say there is, I don't want to say what the social issue is. Like, let's say there is like stuff that needs to happen, like social change, something good.
Sure.
Should it not fall? Stakeholder capitalism, we can define these terms. Like, what is the role of businesses in social issues in America?
I think there's none. As in, there's no responsibility. The role, I think, is a different question of like, they have massive impact. But I think there's also things that are just not pushable enough, no matter how much money and things change. Like, I'll since we're getting not political, but opinionated, like I'll continue pushing on the LGBTQ thing. I would say that for years, multiple companies, because either they had to meet some quota or they got some kind of funding backdoor for meeting such things. I know for a fact when it comes to what do they call it, ESG or like social.
Let's use ESG.
Like ESG.
ESG as a.
Are you scared?
Well, I don't think we need to name topics as much as we can just. Like,
sure, but
I don't think we need examples.
But I think those topics matter because they were unbelievably flooded into
I'm
the.
scared.
You were scared.
What depends what we talk about. Not yet.
Oh, I don't want to edit it again.
No.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Okay.
So far, so
Okay.
good. I'm just being more conscious now, which is fine.
I want to push it. Like I feel like it's important to talk about that specifically. It's my opinion, and I'm not even going to say my opinion. Actually, I'm going to use it as an example of like factual things that have occurred in the past 5 years.
Okay.
Why is that wrong to talk about?
No, so far, so good. So far, so good.
LGBTQ was a narrative that was pushed on in terms of like Pride Month. All Fortune 500 companies changed their logo on LinkedIn.
Sure.
That's a fact.
Sure.
That's a fact. And whatever the cause may be, whether they had to do it because of government, whatever, or some rating that they had to achieve based on like financial companies. Like those are things based on like ESG and other components. Companies are rated based on their adherence to different standards that are typically progressive in nature. Like that is just like an undoubtable fact. I wouldn't even necessarily disagree with. Like if I was a leader of a company,
I like that. I can agree with that. I don't need examples.
I mean,
I agree. Companies are rated by how progressive in typical terms.
Okay, so I will use that specific example and say that
ought they to be
that is a narrative, a theoretical side that they're taking. I'm only saying side not because of my imperative beliefs. I'm saying side because there are people on the opposing side of those beliefs.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
If you interviewed 330 million Americans, not all of them would say, I want my Kellogg's logo
some
to be...
people like Trump, some people like Biden. We should be allowed to say that.
Yes.
I hate that. Now, I want to be politics adjacent. That's the goal. With like, until we can quit politics adjacent.
Oh,
like,
sure. But like this
people should be allowed to like. That's why like I'll do Biden Trump. So I'll make an example. Like people can't conceptualize the people I'm close to. I'm definitely close to more democratic liberal people.
Sure.
Some people can't conceptualize why someone voted for Trump.
Sure.
I can get it. There's reasons why. Like, if you can't get that, then like I think you're part of the problem.
Okay. If LGBTQ topic weirds you out, let's go with something lighter. Biden Trump. If for the past 10 years or so, if Fortune 500 companies on LinkedIn came out and said, congratulations, President Obama. Congratulations, President Biden, on winning the election.
Right.
I'm sure they didn't. I'm making this stuff up. But let's say they did. Conceptually, everything that stands on that side of things, no one would have gone out of their way to cancel. The market wouldn't have reacted negatively. I would strongly argue if Apple came out in 2020 and was like, congratulations, President Trump, on winning the presidency, which is just a slightly added on fact. Like he did win the presidency. And
no, there's definitely positive connotation with saying that.
Sure, but you're congratulating a president for winning.
But you're also condoning it.
Sure, that's not my point.
Yeah.
That's not my point.
Okay.
If they did, Apple stock would drop.
Yes.
Or people would criticize Apple. Yes.
Yes.
If in 20
to some degree, yes, the stock would drop to some degree. Yes, that's all I was saying. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. It wasn't some degree what you're saying. The stock dropped.
If in 2020 Apple came out and said, "Congratulations, President Biden for winning," I would not imagine Apple stock to drop, and I would not imagine the major voices out there will think of that. They will mostly think of it probably neutrally. They'll just say they are admitting a president has won, and a major company can do that. If Tim Cook came out and said, "Congratulations, President Biden," no one would, I think of it negatively. In fact, a lot of the people that are for President Biden will probably try to craft it in a way and say, oh, Tim Cook is just a corporate leader and they're trying to talk about it. Whatever. I don't even go that deep. Anyways, that has been the trend so far. You asked me what role do corporations have in society or like in societal things?
Yep, in the United States. Yep.
And my answer was none, as in they don't have a responsibility to do anything. My point being is that in either side of politics, I think they can do whatever they want, but they need to face the consequences. And they do. And it's called capitalism. And I think that there are forces in this country that try to prohibit that from happening, and they really try to push a narrative, which is why I'm bringing up the Biden, Trump, LGBTQ, ESG examples. But at the end of the day, things turn. This is not a conservative or liberal opinion. People in poli-sci talk about this all the time, where the trends come and go. There's a reason why Disney, as I said earlier, is pulling back on things because it didn't work as they thought they should. Theoretically, if capitalism is working to a certain degree, which it does, then all the narratives that they have pushed so far should be making gazillions of amounts of money, and people would be continuing pushing. The only point I'm trying to make is that by pushing a unbelievably diverse cast of actors in Disney movies and pushing certain agendas or narratives or whatever that they think is going to be either pleasing or commercially successful or both, if those things continue to work, then there would be no reason for them to stop it. They're profitable companies. But the reason that they're not doing it anymore is because the market clearly doesn't want it as much as they think they want it.
Your point is like they're doing that to make money. Is that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. But I'm saying is that for some time, I feel like they were either clouded in their judgment to think that it was going to make money, or that making it seem like they care about the people is more important than the money, and it will actually lead to money, neither of which was achieved by doing that.
It also costs nothing to go on this. Like, if one side it gets more upset than the other, it costs nothing to be like, we agree with the side that gets upset.
It costs nothing until it costs something. Until you start losing.
Until you start
money.
creating movies and budgets and scripts around that.
But,
I agree with that.
I would argue that they are almost making no one happy. Like I think there is value. Like, let's say I was a CEO of Disney, and I feel like Koreans are getting underrepresented.
Sure.
And suddenly there's like a rise in Korean stuff, like K-pop or whatever. So you know what? There's actually a market opportunity. People want Korean things. Yeah. On top of that,
what?
Can
I tangent?
Sure.
Not just because like it's kind of fun.
Okay.
Unless you want to keep going.
Not really. It's fun.
Why do you think the rise? What is with the rise of Korea?
Oh,
South, not north.
Both are rising. It's just
I've been wanting to ask this for a while, so
I'll
talk a little bit. I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. It's not on my list, but it just popped up obviously because like, BTS made the headlines. Wall Street Journal headline front page like 4 years ago. Like, why BTS is taking over the world. I'm sure you probably remember the exact day that happened.
I do.
But
not the day.
Obviously, pop music all over the place. Squid Games, BTS, culturally, they're definitely,
Parasite.
at least Western United States, I can't comment for other places, but definitely United States, they're BTS, Parasite, great movie if you haven't watched it.
Squid Games.
Beef
huge. Beef recently with Koreans, not even like
huge
Korean Americans.
Cultural moment. It's not a very big country. 9 million? No, is that Seoul? 20 million?
By population? 50 million.
50 million? Okay, that's kind of big. But why is it? How? Why? What leads to this? What leads to BTS and Squid Game?
So many meta things. So first of all, I think, not to call it Mike out, Mike is actually very cognizant of things, but I think your like 2-sentence bit right there is exactly, I think, where Korea's at still. Of like, oh yeah, Squid Games, BTS, 9 million? Like that is the exact, obviously people don't memorize populations, but I think that's where we're still. But I guess I don't like forced nationalism, but I'll try to be like prideful for a second and almost say, not condescending things, but like my short answer is like, it was inevitable. Not even in hindsight. I think you could have told anyone, but let me go further. One, we are the most internet adopted by percentage and almost like population country in the world. As in,
you're the most people per capita on the internet.
Wrong. We have 2 stats. So we have the most smartphone and internet adjusted population, as in like 99%.
Or have smartphones?
Correct. Okay. And 2, the stat is obviously not accurate, but we are number 1 in that stat. Number 2, most, if not all of our generations supersede every other first world country in adoption, meaning that our grandparents' era adopted the internet, I'm going to exaggerate, like 3 decades before your grandparents adopted the internet. So the trickling down effect of
around
how,
like 3 decades.
yeah, but like that's my point though. Trickling down effect of like how advanced our population is compared to y'all's I'm American, but y'all's population is like
you're saying y'all, y'all Americans.
It's like not even comparable. So number one, internet is just so core, meaning that content is a very natural thing for Koreans, right? Koreans like understand content. They have been curating it for such a long time. Like K-pop is not a new thing. K-pop's been around for 30 years. Americans happen to find it recently.
You guys don't call it K-pop. When it was, at one point, it wasn't called K-pop.
No.
Okay, it's pop. I hope. Okay.
And I think the idea is that things like Squid Games popped up. There's plenty of analysis behind this where the content was ready. We just didn't have external capital. And the Netflix model allowed for external investments based on streaming IP to be like inputted into the Korean system, which leads to more content. And that's for me to say that I think this is merely the beginning. Like Korea will continue to dominate content
do you think
forever.
Because Korea was on the internet before, I'd be curious why you think that. Why you think they were on the internet before the rest of the world, at least the United States. Do you think because they had such an advantage, whether that's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they got past maybe where our content was now, and they're like 5 years ahead or 10 years. In terms of what we would find entertaining in 5 years, 10 years,
correct.
They're ahead of that. They got good at creating that.
Right.
As soon as Netflix started to release shows globally,
yes,
we're suddenly exposed to like a level of content that's 5-10 years ahead.
Right. Okay. Now there's two things. So I'm saying that there was a resting of like tons of Squid Games like things. Ironically, you ask many Koreans, they'd say Squid Games is not that even good. Like
I didn't think it was that good, but I had to watch the
exactly.
Whole thing. Well, does anyone like? It's not the best produced thing out there.
I think it's a very socially whatever. That aside, I would argue there's tons of Squid Games out there, and there have been many. Life is always about timing. It just needed the Squid Games level of or subsequent levels of input from like Netflix level things. But your point being, yes, I do think that Koreans are skipping over. Now I have to get to like nationally racist statements, but it's not cancelable. Like it's
racist for two.
Racist pro Koreans. Like you're asking me like why are we good at this? I need to tell you why, but it's not the statistical answers that I think people or like you want to hear. Perhaps.
Okay.
For example, as in like not a reason, but like a comparable of like you do understand like until 1945. Like before World War II ended, Korea was like a imperialized country under Japanese rule. And then until like 1960s, it was under one country, still very poor. And then within like 20, 30 years, rose to top 15 GDP. So
post the Korean War.
Correct. Okay. So I'm trying to make, I'm not
Russia, proxy war with Russia, the United States.
Sure.
Right.
China.
I actually literally don't know.
I
never studied the Korean War.
Between Communist Party and
Madman is the most exposure to the Korean War I've had because he served in the Korean War. Don Draper.
But I'm trying to make a point that I think Koreans are very good at scaling and being competitive just by design and by nature. And like I understand how that might sound, but like I'm not going to go into, I'm not a historical expert, I'm not a political expert, and there's obviously many different interpretations of why Korea was able to achieve such unbelievable growth in such amount of time, but that's like almost like not heard of. Secondly, to your point earlier, so 50 million people, but 1/5 of the population lives in Seoul, right? Seoul's like not that big of a city. It's big, but it's like not that big, which means that the density per capita is unbelievably high. People live in apartments, high rises. There's always seeing what the other person is doing, like almost intentional forced competition is very high in Korea, which means that it leads to very high quality things, period. I would almost like juxtapose this and flip and say, if you ride a subway in Korea once, you will never want to pay taxes in this New York City ever again.
Like I love the New York City subway. Man, I actually don't know if it's that hot to take. It gets you where you need, and there's not that many delays for how big and how many people go through this.
I think the difference is that in Korea there's 0 delays.
It's like German efficient. Like Germans are known for their
but it's beyond like
trains.
there's no delays. There's no ability to fall into the tracks. It's impossible. And I'm talking about the smallest things of like, if you hop on the 34 Herald Square right now, Mike, you didn't have a Google map.
I don't like that stop. I walk home.
Okay, but let's say you had no idea about how the stops. You never ridden the train before. There is, let's say the screens are off. The screens that barely work all the time.
I'm dying. I'm out.
You don't even know what the next stop is. You just see uptown and downtown. There's no signage on the panel that says next stop is 23rd. The previous stop is Times Square.
That's true.
In Korea, in every single stop of the subway, you look up and you see the stop that you're at, the stop that you're about to go to, the stop that it was coming from, and 2 steps above that. In the subway, there's full access LTE. There's no stoppage underground, which is like unimaginable in Korea. Let's say you're in the subway, and for whatever reason, there's like a 3-second delay. You're suddenly nervous. There's a dedicated number that you text and say, "What is going on right now?" Immediate response.
I was like a
You're
bot.
stuck. But it's a real person.
No way.
100%.
That's so inefficient, though.
There's also bots, but there's a real person also. Your American mind makes you seem like it's inefficient. It's just how customer service works. I don't know if it's a bot at this point, but there theoretically is a person.
It was. I mean, that job.
Okay.
That job should be displaced today.
Okay, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
Do we have that in the U.S.? Can you even text while you're in the subway? No. Like it's just not. It's
That's
not
true. I didn't think about that.
It's not even plausible. I'm saying the things that you. I guess the thing that I'm trying to like parallelize here, bad comparison because it's efficiency versus content, whatever. I do think that we're 5 to 10 years ahead in terms of recognizing what's fun. Let me put it a different way. When we go hang out, actually, this is a better better answer to your question.
South Korea.
We like us Americans.
Got it.
And us, like, let's say 6 boys or like a group of like guys and girls
It's really for the clips. You just want to say things.
Go on a day trip to
Self-contained context for the clips. Sorry. That makes sense, right?
If we co-gender, like go to a like weekend trip in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
You've been sledding. I don't know. What?
What are we slide? Okay, no. Let's say we go to an Airbnb, all of us, and we just spend a day. Like we're just like playing board games, probably.
Sure,
yeah?
probably.
Like,
yeah,
okay, Koreans like don't play board games. Like
there's board games.
There's games that we've created, like either drinking games or social games that are not like throwing a ball in a cup, that are like word based or like hand signal based or like making fun of each other based. They're just called Korean games for people that we've like spread it to.
Okay.
That we just naturally have fun and entertain ourselves together with.
Okay.
I have introduced American friends into that game and they like can't comprehend. Like they're unable to participate in the game.
Can you give an example?
There's a game called Asa, okay?
Asa.
Where we all maintain a beat. So we go, Asa, Asa. So starting that already, like 90% of Americans drop out because Koreans by nature, so Koreans are required to take music education starting in elementary school.
Okay.
So the average like contentability of a Korean is already higher. Every Korean knows how to read sheet music. Most Koreans know how to sing. Every Korean knows at least 2-3 instruments. That is not true of the average American.
Okay.
So contentability and ability to understand culture and music is already there. And to your point, the population is quite small. So exposure to entertainment is extremely high from the start by design. And then there's the internet portion. At the ASA portion, like just the fact that this is fun is, I think, just not attributable to other populations yet, which is why I think the Squid Games equivalence starts coming out.
Wait, so you think your games will spread?
100%. I think everything will spread. I think it's just a matter of time for the rest to catch up.
But the games are based, like, their hypothesis of why Squid Games and other stuff caught up and spread so much because you were so far ahead content-wise. What's your strategic advantage, for lack of a better term,
of having that, or why do we?
Well,
have
that's
that?
not based on the internet. You had a strategic advantage in content by having the internet earlier. You
Oh,
had an advantage.
sorry. I think I'm. You are
Unless
right.
you have good internet games, which I could go.
I should better contain.
Esports.
I should better contain.
That you've already spread esport, isn't?
But if anything, a lot of the esports that are popular aren't even made by us. Like StarCraft is an American game, League of Legends is an American game, Fortnite is an American game. We just have to be good at them. This is why I'm trying to be like careful, is because the more I get into this, I can't say much more than like Koreans are just better. Like at this, I wouldn't say like we're obviously not good at basketball. We're like we could be better in soccer, but at fun and identifying. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Sure.
At identifying what's fun, having fun, entertaining, and getting people's attention, I think we're unbelievably just good. You could read Outliers and read about like the rice farmers and say like, why we're good at math. Like, I think it's in similar regard that I'm just like not knowledgeable.
It seems like
to
it's
talk
10,000 hours of the internet. Like, the stuff you guys have exceeded at so far, it's all internet based.
I would say so.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. You've had 10,000 hours, 10,000 generations, whatever you want to call it, advancement and an internet because you got it so early.
Maybe this is even better. I think because we have lack of real estate.
Physical?
There's less ability to play sports. Like people obviously.
Is it a dense country?
Very dense country. And so people can obviously play sports and they're very competitive even in that. But I think a lot of times people are forced to have fun at home together, which is why that you have a lot of like video gamers and people who sit and play these games.
Sure.
And they're just like frankly very community based. I would say Americans are not very community based people. They're very individualistic.
Do I know my actual topic was if we needed it? It's on this.
Okay.
This should hopefully last a while. I've been thinking about this for so long. We've kind of chatted about this.
We have so many bounds. It's fine.
That's what I want actually, because this is so incredibly genuine of my chaotic mind. I feel like I'm interviewing you, but you're so good at responding to it. My next and like what was actually what I would have brought up if we didn't have a good opener, the death of communities. How institutions, communities, this can spiral in so many different directions. But what I'm thinking about is like, let's say work from home generation, let's say a generation without church, a generation without, again, going in the office, especially in a city like New York, where this could like branch into where you should live, what you should do. I'm just curious like, I've been so jealous of your ability to go to a new city, whether it's Chicago, New York, LA. You can walk into a church, know what to do, fit in. Like for me, I'm agnostic. I don't have a religion. I could maybe join a running club. I honestly probably could do that city to city. I haven't done that, but like to have something so familiar, like church, because after you're done with school, if you have a fully remote job or even a hybrid job, like I think this goes into why people are lonely. I think this goes into the loneliness epidemic that's adjacent. I'm more just curious your thoughts on the lack of community. How much do you think, like, how grateful are you about being able to show up and be with people? Like, if I want to be in person with people all day, I have to go to the office. You can do that on a Sunday. I've always been incredibly jealous. I'm like you, I'm extroverted. I love being with people for 12 hours a day. I have to like really like plan with friends, do it on the weekend hardcore, do it with family, which is why I like going home a lot. I'm with my family for 12 hours a day. I love it. Or have to go to work all day. Damn. You can just go walk into church.
It's just like, I'm just like reflecting on me being a bad Christian and not taking my church, like for real. But
I don't know if that's a solution, but I'll come.
Soft spot aside, I don't think I'm thankful enough. I think it's just something that I'm so used to having. Like, I'm not even trying to do this for this. Like, I'm genuinely reflecting on like needing to be more thankful and think about. I'm not gonna go off tangent, but I've been actively thinking about evangelizing or bringing people into my community separately, but it's so easy. I don't really know how to say it else. I've never even thought about it this way. That's a great mental model of like church fluency is a universally applicable thing that I just like didn't even think about. And I would almost juxtapose it and say some people would argue, Mike, especially immigrants or people that are outsiders in this country, it's kind of probably what you as a Caucasian American might feel when you go into like a bar and everyone is white there. Of course, it's a little different because there's no specifics, but there's a level of comfort that you and maybe me even to a certain degree feel that those people will never feel.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to a Korean church. I'm not even like take the immigrant experience out of it, which I completely agree.
Sure.
Next level at your church, and you associate with like speaking Korean church, all of that. And I've been to church, so I know how easy it is, especially when we went to church on Easter. I walked in. How are you? Pass the peace of Christ. You shake hands. You're welcomed. What else is possibly like that? That's that easy to walk into. Like maybe a running club. Jiu-jitsu is actually like that.
But I'm talking bar. Like I'm saying that
people don't
as easy as.
But it's like there's something about the same people. Like you don't build a community with strangers. That's not what a community is.
I'm missing the big point. Sure.
You go with friends that you have to have, but like you move to a city completely alone.
That's fair.
You have a remote job.
Completely fair.
Church is an amazing way. Like I'm gonna break my body doing all my athletic stuff. And that's why I did jiu-jitsu for a little while at LIC, but then I didn't want to get cauliflower again. Although they're very friendly, and I would have built up a community that way.
That's fair.
And my friend in Austin, who has jiu-jitsu community, and he does that, and does things with those people. I'm just thinking, like,
His name is not Austin. He's in Austin.
There used to be such a bigger way to build community.
Ooh.
And a lot of people are doing school remote. And I don't know how many people work remotely. It's a lot of the post-college. I feel like a lot of jobs are remote or hybrid. And there's so many. Ooh. And we're becoming more urbanized. Urbanization has made a 200, 300-year-old thing to the degree we have it.
I mean, I don't even want to turn this into a church brag, but I think you're on the spot where there is no equivalent, because what other organization, even like cauliflower, jiu-jitsu club, like
it's actually, I would actually make. I think jiu-jitsu is actually pretty similar. You could go anywhere and you'd walk in. You know what it's supposed to be.
Oh no, sorry, I meant jiu-jitsu. The organization is not centered around like spreading love. Like that,
Surprise! I would actually not to the degree religion.
Right.
Like, there is like these pseudo religions these days.
Of course.
And we're getting the religion adjacent. Like, I think Elon Musk is a pseudo religion. Side note, I think jiu-jitsu is a pseudo religion. I think rock climbing, like, you go to jiu-jitsu gym all across the country. They're actually very nice people. Like MMA fighters, weird. There's a weird thing. Fighters, like, the hard sports breed the nicest people.
I'm confident
they all like get it out.
But I'm saying by design and by DNA, that gap is probably wider than you think. As in, like, for example, last week my back was hurting, and like the idea that the fact that my back was hurting like spread through the community, and like my pastor called me, and like my like small group people texted me, my like small group leader group texted me, and like I'm sure some of them were like forced to do it, but I'm saying like that I don't think exists like in any other community, because in some ways I'm almost criticizing it. It's like by design, and some of them probably feel obligated to do it, which I don't want to think that hard. I'm thankful for that, even if it's fake. Like they did it for me, but I'm saying like that's the church model, and like I'm just like marveling at your ability to catch up on like even see that, as in like the fluency that you also probably exhibit, where if you go to a jiu-jitsu club here and then you go to like Austin, you go to California, there's terminology and mannerisms, and to be honest, the types of people that attract that is already a self-filter where you're gonna immediately hit it off on certain things. I think church is that at like a global level.
The barrier to entry is a lot lower. That's the big thing.
Unbelievably low.
You don't need to be athletic. You can just walk in. You're raised with it. It is like jiu-jitsu has a value system, and it is this. And I think there's a deep human need for what the whole religion feels. I think we have felt that in a growingly agnostic society. I think we have filled it with a lot of these activities, but I don't think we filled it to the degree that we've lost it. Like that gap, it's kind of what I'm talking about here with the lack of community, lack of connection, social isolation. I think that's only getting bigger. But not everyone can do jiu-jitsu. Not everyone's fit. Not everyone wants to be beat up. Not everyone wants to join a running club.
That's true.
People do. Another big one is improv. People do improv. Same community. I bet you can't visit as much. Maybe you can. I'm not sure. I've never done improv.
Even church is on a decline. Like I mean, obviously, but I'm saying even a step further. I'll fire shots. Like
I think quality wise.
Like just in general, I think people are less like passionate.
It is literally. I follow these stats. It is going down.
But I think people are less passionate. I think post COVID, you definitely see like a return to church, but it's not the same like feeling or vibe. I might be getting older. On top of that, I would say that even in church, there's isolation. There's like in New York church, I call my church out for this all the time. But like for example, every Sunday, our small group goes out to eat, and to eat, like we spend a lot of money. We spend like $30, $40, $50 a week per person. Exaggerated. That if you can't afford that, you're going to start not coming out or say like, oh, I can't do dinner. So now there's like a subgroup within the group that forms that can do dinner, and subgroup that can do dinner, or not as flexible or living too far. There's also tropes within, I'm sure, like in athletic groups, like if you're immature, probably not, but like people who are faster or people who are better at like
hierarchy.
There's a clear hierarchy, but at least that's like somewhat merit based. Like I would argue psychologically, if I go to any athletic club, I don't feel bad for sucking because I know that I suck. And I revere, if I go to wrestling club with Mike, like if Mike looks better than me, I'm like, obviously. Like Mike's been wrestling. That provides me zero hurt. If anything, I'm like, my friend is Mike. And like I'm learning. I think in church, to your point, there's no real barrier to entry. There's no tangible barrier to entry.
I could walk into church better. Well, minus the fact that I grew up Christian, I could walk into church better than you can walk in a wrestling mat.
100%. But you will feel intangible and underlying things where you're like, oh, like I'm not actually in the in group because I'm not like holy enough, or like I don't know how to play guitar, or like I don't know these terminologies, or like I don't know, I haven't been to retreat, or whatever that means.
I can't play guitar. It sounds a little personal. Is that a personal little Brian's like, I can't play guitar at church. I felt something in there. That comment snuck in there. Brian does not play guitar as far as I'm aware.
For the record, I do play guitar.
You do play guitar?
Yes.
Since when do you play guitar?
Since 8th grade.
You don't own a guitar.
I do own a guitar now.
You buy a guitar?
Yes.
We're going to fact check this.
But
Next podcast, Brian's playing guitar. We're fact checking this.
But I think those things underlyingly exist for communities, and I think that communities are dying, both working together against each other.
Do you think that's a problem? And what do you think? If you think that, do you think that's a big problem?
Huge problem. I mean, I think it's leading to just sadness across the board. And ironically, as someone who lives and breathes online communities, it's not even close to being the same. Not even close. Because being in person, understanding how, what this person is operating. We've been in work from home culture for 3+ years. Technology is still lagging behind. Zoom is not whatever. It's just so lacking. And you can ditch online communities like this because the accountability is not there. Yeah. I'm sure there are people that are active that will care for you, but they're just not present. Where to your point, there is a consistency that, for example, school had. If you didn't show up to classrooms, if you stopped showing up on the hallways, people would start wondering about you because people they saw every day didn't show up anymore physically. And I think that essence of physical community is going down. And we're not robots. I don't think we can fully evolve into a online community.
The internet's been unleashed on the world, Slack, Zoom, communication technology, social media. We've released these on the world without knowing what the possibility would do to our psyche as a culture. And at the same time, I don't know if internet led to the death of church. That'd be really interesting to look at. But as church declining, internet came. It probably is related.
100%.
And we have these it's cheap sugar or cheap carbs. Get on a Zoom call and talking with someone. It's okay. It's nice.
It's not bad.
It's cheap. It's not as much as being in person. I think
I completely agree.
You need to be face to face, but there is. Maybe we all got tolerant for it during 2020 during the pandemic. We built a really bad tolerance for being alone, and then post it. It's I would hate There's a part of me that's oh, I'd love to actually have an in-person job 4 or 5 days a week.
I'm sure.
But there's another part of me that's would never choose that for myself.
Exactly.
Despite that, maybe it's the part of you that knows you could quit smoking, you should go to the gym, but you're never actually going to do that. It's I might be happier in my life, long term and short term, if I quit my job and got a fully in person, a job that forced me to go. And this tech job's in New York City. I actually interviewed at a startup, fully in person. I thought about it, but I didn't want to stay in New York. I'm I don't. It's so hard to put that back in the bottle.
And you know what the scariest part is? Because you can't replicate feelings or the vibe, we will never know if we actually felt like that post-COVID, post-internet or pre. If I think you're picking up what I'm saying, but we don't know if we're feeling that way because we're older or there's actually a fundamental difference in us or if society changes this way, whatever it is. But I'm willing to bet I think it's true. I think something has changed, and I think people are definitely sadder.
That's a stat. That's a stat.
It has
more
to be.
lonelier.
It has to be.
Actually, I read another Economist article, which is maybe they'll sponsor us one day.
Please.
That'd be sick for me. It was saying, I guess for one age group, 18 to 24, I think suicides and mental health has gotten better, but other age groups as a whole, it's gotten worse. So I don't know,
certain.
It's just really, really hard problems. I was just listening to another podcast. I think it was the All In, where they're talking about their daughters and social media. And this guy, Dean Phillips, I guess he's a Democratic presidential candidate. I don't really know if you have candidates yet.
Sure.
Unless Biden's not going to run again. He was saying there should be a minimum age requirement for social media. This should be.
I somewhat agree. I fully agree.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on to pivot to the minimum age requirement of social media in the United States? We to drink at 21, we could drive at 16. He also made another really interesting point. He was saying it's kind of crazy, and this is the opposite, I guess, of most countries. We can be driving for 5 years before we know the effects of alcohol on us. Then all of a sudden we're given our first drinks, and we have key. We should learn to drink, then learn to drive. Because you need to learn how alcohol, you can have a beer or two, think you're totally okay because it's the first time you've been drunk, and then hop in a car. I'm not sure what the rate of 21-year-olds having DUIs.
Sure.
I don't know. I bet I don't feel like there's an age thing with DUIs. I feel like I would actually say it's maybe a higher age, but that's just me guessing. Do you think we should have an age limit requirement on social media?
I think that we should have either age requirements on everything or nothing.
All the social,
No, sorry. I am smart, witty.
It's Ep.27 podcast.
I'm basically saying yes. I think we certainly should have a social media age restriction, and I'm going further and saying it doesn't make sense to me that things like cigarettes, alcohol, weed, or whatever have age restrictions, and something like social media doesn't. I think it's the same thing how cigarettes or whatever didn't have it in the past. It's simply because we just don't fully understand the impact of it, but we're living through it. I know people that have ruined lives because of social media. There's adults in my life, grown adults.
Define ruined life. I'm curious about that because I couldn't.
People who are like on, I think the same way that some people are more bound to be addicted to alcohol than others. There's something genetic about being more addicted to alcohol than others. Yeah. I think there's some people that are just more addicted to social media than others. I've seen 50-year-olds who are on TikTok and messaging apps on Facebook and Instagram all day, like on the subway with their kids. The number of parents I see at dinners, like out in restaurants, where the other kid, the mom and the dad are all on their phones the entire time. That's a ruined. Right. Like that family's done. Like there is no communication being done. They all probably don't talk to each other. I don't.
Well, you have a point in time bias, but
sure. I find that no different than seeing a dad who is an alcoholic doing bad things to their kids temporarily. I'm sure some alcoholic dads have good times and good days with their kids, but the negative effects when they're so high on that alcohol flows over. The more and more they do it, they hit into their kids. You were telling me there's no effects of isolation and falling into it. How about dads who are, or young dads, let's say guys who are like 22, 23, that grew up with TikTok. They certainly did, 5, 6 in. And
when was TikTok released? Do you know?
I actually have no idea. I know that Bite City with Musical.ly, the original TikTok, was around when I was in middle school.
TikTok's another, like, I have downloaded, like, I don't get addicted to things. TikTok it's insane how it like.
And I'm trying to like almost like come clean here and saying like TikTok's many times recommends like videos of pretty girls and models to young men. Yeah, like, I've gotten it multiple times.
Yeah.
As biologically males, we scroll. We're like, like, this is pretty.
You spend a little more. I bet you just spend more. It's time looked at it.
Everyone looks at it.
The algorithm's insane.
If you are a 16-year-old, peak hormones watching that, you're probably addicted to it, but you don't feel as guilty as for that than smoking a cig like behind your parents' back,
right?
Because no one's telling you that it's illegal.
The stigma's not there yet.
Zero stigma.
Yeah. You don't have the Brian and Mike podcast to tell you not to do it.
When you turn 22, 23, 24, there's people who are addicted. There's no blink switch where you go, I'm now an adult. I have a baby. I'm no longer addicted. Addictions last. There is no way.
And your brain, if you're 16, that's the problem when you're growing up. You're still like, your neural pathways are getting set in place. I mean, you can change them and stuff, but there is
no way that doesn't have a lasting impact on that person's ability to be a father, ability to be a faithful wife, and just be able to concentrate on things. And that's not necessarily their fault. There's zero guidelines on what is being sent to these people and being shown to them hours and hours a day. But to your point, there's no restrictions and there's no stigma. There's growing stigma and there's education purposes. And I would argue the fact that you and I are talking about it probably shows that people are thinking about it, but it's not legally binding.
I mean, there's another one of my potential topics. There are so many things to pay attention to. It could just be like, I think everyone agrees. I don't think anyone's like, fuck yeah, social media.
True.
I think it's actually a big topic, but like, how do you choose what to fix? Let alone like, if you choose what to fix, so we can go into politics a tiny bit, but not really. Like, let's say the government choose, like, there's a clear problem that's causing deaths, which is like the highest order thing we probably want to prevent.
Sure.
They're probably not competent enough to fix it. Let alone like something that's not causing deaths, that's not causing traffic accidents. Maybe it's causing traffic accidents, but like, for the most part, like, yes, it's very bad, harmful for society. But of all the things to fix is social, like, how do you steer people towards that? How do you pay attention to it? Like, you could go to there's obviously back in the United States, big home. I'm talking about, I want to do a little post. I started Substack, by the way.
Hell yeah.
It's more to organize thoughts for this.
Hell yeah.
But I want to do a post on like problems I want to pay attention to. Social media is a big one. Another one's homelessness, which I think is tied in with the opioid fentanyl crisis and Purdue Pharma. I don't know what else would be like. We don't have, I want to be U.S. focused. Obviously, wars and deaths, the higher order things, like what causes death in the United States. Like, I think top 3 is fentanyl. I'm pretty sure top 3 is one of the top 3, which is crazy to think about.
Sure.
I need to fact check that. Another one's like heart disease, so obesity, health, very near to my heart. Like, I want to think about health. I want to think about like stuff like drinking and diet, and like we already see that there's like the on X, formerly known as Twitter. I like how everyone says that. X, formerly known as Twitter. People like to say like, oh, I went to Europe, I ate all these bread and carbs and croissants, and I lost weight. It may just be the walking, but like Maybe we have different standards in FDA. That'd be another interesting thing to pay attention to. This whole pivot, how do we choose what to pay attention to? There's all these problems out there. We all kind of agree. When you're scrolling on your TikTok or not scrolling on your TikTok, how do you, and I'm trying to organize my life and choose what to pay attention to. And this is like I love the term attention diet or internet diet or content diet. You have to be very proactive in choosing what to listen to, pay attention to, read, or else someone's going to choose what you pay attention to. The big corporations, Byte and Meta and Alphabet, maybe not Alphabet, Facebook, those are the big three, Byte, Meta, Facebook. That is Meta. And that is Instagram too, and Facebook.
Byte City.
What else is there besides Byte and Facebook and Meta?
Nothing.
That's crazy.
There's nothing. And X.
And X, so Musk. I think X is going downhill. What do you pay attention to?
I think it's a multifaceted problem. I think that too many people have opinions. And I think that everyone feels like they have to have opinions.
A little hypocritical.
It is very hypocritical. I think that people who previously would have never had a voice now have giant voices, meaning that
I think so. I think you have to earn an opinion. That might be an article at some point.
But I think people
agree with you.
People don't earn it as well these days. So that's like a growing problem. So there's, to your point, too many things to pay attention to. Two, I think society individually, on average and as a whole, is growing too fast for governments to catch up. Like, I think it's time to really just admit the government, I think, has no idea what they're doing. Like, I think that they have good information. I think they have smart people.
How could they? So politics, this is again on the All In podcast that I was listening to. It's like, is either 9% or 9 people, I think it's 9% of congressmen/women have engineering degrees. Like, how could someone study politics who knows the ins and outs of the Israel-Hamas crisis and China and Taiwan? And I don't know the history of that. And to know what goes on today, you have to know what happened 500 years ago, quite literally, because history is one damn thing after another. To know all that, like, they're focused on that. How could they possibly know the ins and outs of social media and computer science? And like, how could they? Do you blame them?
Half of them read phones like this because they can't see. like ageism aside, I think, one, I am shocked that we lasted this long. Like, constantly I think about how do countries last this long?
Oh, United States. Not Homo sapiens.
No. Okay. I understand how Homo sapiens last, but how did the United States last this long? And two, how are not more people just dying? Like just like more accident. How do we survive this long?
Isn't that fascinating?
And like
that's fascinating. I totally agree.
Like, obviously, I have my religious commitment, but like that. Let's take that.
How does everything work?
How does it all work? Exactly. How does it all work? Because you look at the government. We went to a relatively political school, so I think like we recognize how certain things work, and like there's 3 branches.
Yep.
Within the 3 branches, there's hundreds of people making decisions.
I'm already lost after the branches.
They all check and balance, and they
all check and balance.
They all
checking the balancing. They're checking the balancing.
They got all these rules and all these laws, and every time something changes,
so many laws. Corporate lawyers are doing
every
businesses.
time some new law. Let's say I'm just like, hey, we have concrete evidence that TikTok causes suicides in 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
For that to go anywhere, hundreds of people who probably have never even been on TikTok have to have their staffers organize their employees, their interns to look through all these things. I'm just making things up. Get through the signatures, have them look at it, rally the people, lower whip, higher majority, speaker of the house, blah, 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 legislative branch, judicial branch, look at the precedents, sign that into order, have the president sign it, and then have it implement. Most of the companies have to integrate what they're integrating. Blah, 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 blah. Like all these things for every single decision. And we've lasted this long. And aside from maybe like COVID vaccine, which we needed it quick, I'm not making a political statement. Like it happened because it was like an immediate health related thing.
Yeah.
Everything else requires multifaceted agreements between the most non-agreeable species on earth. And we've lasted hundreds of years and like thousands, I'm sure, whatever, millions as a species. But like this country alone, let's this question ironically is about what should we focus on? Like the United States alone has somehow lasted this long. But I think the tipping point is coming because until now, the people were controllable and there were a limited number of things that people could focus on because there was a lack of information. Now there's too many people and too much information. too many people with too much information.
Okay, I like that better. There's definitely too much information. Like our brains are so fragmented, and I'm starting to like. I feel it. If I go, I have Instagram on my phone, so I do go through those reels. Those are the reels. Like I probably look at reels like once every 2 days, maybe once a day. I can feel my brain become fragmented. Like I have to like carve out time, sit down with a book for an hour. I think most people like, literally couldn't do that because that has to change your brain. Like boom, 10 seconds, boom, 10 seconds. And I have watched people in my life do that for hours.
Hours. I've done it for hours before. I've done it for hours.
There's no depth there. There's no content. It is just so like, I don't know what good that can do. Yes, we have like, it's such a balance of, oh yeah, we have right to freedom, right to look at the stuff. I agree. We are imposing our values on this, but like, does anyone really want to sit down and like, would they be like, yeah, I want to watch TikTok for 8 hours a day? Maybe some people would say that. But like,
that's what I'm saying. But here's the thing.
I don't think 3 Americans would say, yes, as a society, we should be doing that.
But it's the same comparable because I don't think anyone, if someone was like, hey, do you want to smoke nicotine tar down your throat like once a day? People are like, no. But there's like a release. I've smoked cigars before. I've gotten double blows before. It feels good. Like from the moment. It
feels good.
The same way when I lay down at home and I just want to de-stress, I like TikTok because it gives the dopamine. I watch fun things. Every once in a while, there's like a K-pop video. I'm like, whoa, like shiny things. There's zero difference. It's the exact same thing, except it's 24/7 accessible with everyone around, and there's no stigma, and everyone is doing it. So it's further enhanced by society. You know the thing that you just talked about, how like we're changing, whatever. You know what I've been recognizing? Part of it is me becoming older. I don't think I'm that. I think I am not as funny anymore. I've been recognizing that, and it's been kind of upsetting me. In any group or conversation, I was typically like the like conversation carrier. And
Conversation carrier. Okay, yeah. I agree with that one.
And
it's the comedian part on Instagram. Keep going. You make yourself
those
laugh.
eyes. Yeah, I hate you so much. And I feel that lowering, and it's because my ability to think quick and naturally has been going down because I'm relying on content for that. I'm letting it think for me. You know what else I've been doing a lot that I've been catching myself doing? When I go to a video, you know what the first thing I do?
Views, I don't know, comments.
I go to the comments. You know what? You know why I go to the comments subconsciously?
Because you're a YouTuber.
I am thinking vicariously
what do other people think about the video?
Through them. And it's natural. It's not even like I'm actively wanting that. It's almost like I want their feedback already. I want their answers. I'm not talking about my own videos. I'm talking about someone else's video. I'm talking about like literally a movie trailer. And as the trailer's starting, I scroll to the comments and I go, what do these people think about?
To know what you want to think.
To know what I want to think.
Which is a natural herd mentality thing. If you're in like, it's dangerous to have the hot take in a herd. Like, that's innate human character. Like, but at the same time, we'll never have original thoughts. And you and I definitely value, whether you value original thoughts, you and I think value original thoughts.
Of course.
Our job may depend on having original thoughts.
Course.
Or at least Spain things people don't say.
Of course.
I'd rather have original thoughts than going the other way, which you want to go.
Sure.
David Perel, guy I've told you about all around, one of the writers,
yes.
he has a great article titled The Endless Now.
Yes.
It's what he calls everything we consume has been produced in the past 24 hours. And the reason news is called news is because it's
new.
It's new.
That's crazy.
He has endless now. It's all created in the past 24 hours. How could we possibly have, like, how much in the society happens that's unique that you need to pay attention to those in the past 24 hours? We're scrolling in an endless now. We're constantly present. We're not in the future. We're not in the past. We're not studying history. There's also this line of, like,
God damn.
Another great book. I really want to read the whole thing. I read a little bit of it. It's called Amusing Ourselves to Death. He also recommends it. I think he probably cites it in that article. It talks about like when the internet was coming about and like mail and the telegraph. The telegraph was just like, I think, horses, and maybe the telegraph was like electronics. But as communication technologies grew and grew and grew, and we, for the first time, whether that's mail or the internet, you can imagine the same thing. All of a sudden, from Texas to Massachusetts, you can talk to each other. Mail was maybe a day or a week. Internet's a second. I'm not at the point yet. Internet was like a second or a millisecond. And they could talk to each other. But what if they have nothing to say? But they're still going to talk to each other. Because we can. I'm still going to post it and someone in California can read it. I can watch Squid Games. Do I need to, like, Parasite is on inequality in South Korean culture, but I can relate to it because of inequality in United States and America. But just because we can talk to each other does not mean we have something to say.
No. Just because you have the platform doesn't mean you have to shout your opinion.
No.
Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it has to be shared.
Just because you can pay for a podcast studio doesn't mean you should podcast.
Just because you could sponsor a nice podcast by Mike and Brian doesn't mean...
Wait, no, you should.
You hit it on the spot where I keep checking comments. And like, that's the first thing I do when I go to the video. And I can't help but think that is definitely bleeding into my real social life, where I want to say something, and I'm immediately thinking like, what should I think? What should I be saying right now? Even though that was never the case for me, especially for someone like me.
Do you think you did that? Should you check comments more now?
Oh yeah. Well, now I actively stop. Now I actively stop. It's herd mentality for sure. Because most of okay, Mike, this is the scariest part. The videos that I watch, for example, let's say I'm watching like news, like actual news, or like political commentary, or like something financial or like technical that I don't understand, that I'm going to learn. I think at that point the comments might matter. Like maybe there is actually value to go into the comments and saying like, oh, this video is not valuable, or skip to this, whatever. There's something to be gained by going to the comments. I look at the comments of things like that. I should leave it to my own opinion. Like I watch a trailer for a movie that I should just enjoy and like get ready for excitement, and I go to the comments and read like people saying like, oh, I can't believe blah 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 is already in the movie. I'm already jumping to the conclusion. In some ways, there's a part of me that reads the comments because I don't want to watch the entire video. It's wild.
That's a crazy. I don't know what this is like. So many problems. How do we focus on it? I still would have to get to my date.
Our technology is lasting for some reason.
That's usually what cuts us off. Great. We can keep going.
No, we should go.
No, we could. I can't. I can't. We could. I can't.
Mike's off to his date.
I guess that's the Brian. We can actually close it.
We can actually close it. Holy crap!
That's the Brian and Mike podcast.
Oh my God.
We covered a whole lot, but what's our closing thing? We don't have one yet.
Too many problems.
Too many problems.
You know what? So on a different podcast that I have called Hot, not I have, but like we do on for NFT stuff. It's called Shots Fired, and we like end the show with like a hot take, just for today, since we can actually end it. Let's end it with like a 1-sentence hot take.
You guys gonna think of a hot take on
the fly, just anything.
There were a lot of hot takes in there. We've talked about what's my I don't know what my hot take is.
I'll kick it off.
Okay.
I think that social media age restrictions will become a actual like full on hot topic soon, but it will never come out to be. And my hot take on that, like my actual hot take, is that I think society will fall before there's a social media age restriction.
I don't think we're ever going to see it. I don't think we're ever going to see social media age restriction. Maybe. I don't know. Do you think Biden will run for president? Do you think they'll let him run for president?
I will. I think so.
I think Trump's going to win. That's my hot take.
Wow.
I don't want him to. Let's clarify that. I don't want Biden to win either. I don't want either of them. I don't want Biden or Trump. If it's Trump, Biden. The Economist talks about this.
Mike's political opinions do not represent the Mike and Brian Mike podcast. This is not my opinion.
I don't want either of them to win. I don't want either of them to run. I think Trump will beat Biden. And if they let Biden run,
I would agree.
But I think I may have predicted that in 2022.
Well, thanks for stopping by. I hope you're watching this before the age restriction for social media. All you kids watching this, make sure you like and subscribe. Read the comments first.
It's like 2 people to watch it.
We'll see you guys next time.
Hi, Justin. Oh! That was sick! Oh my God. Please tell me most like that.